Good afternoon, my beautiful babes and babettes. I'm your resident active advocate, and as you can tell, I'm in a good mood. Why am I in a good mood? Because this series is almost done. One more video, and then I will take this series for the flop that it was and move on with my life on Monday. We're going to get into something much more constructive. I promise. I promise we will do something relevant shortly, but not today. Not today. Today, I need to finish talking about Breaking Dawn. And we are moving on to young Master Jacob Black, as well as a few other people whom to this point I have kind of neglected. Oops, sorry, Leah. But her story figures very much into Jacob's. So here we go. Jacob is, as the purest-blooded member of the pack, actually in charge of the alpha duties. See, in a real life wolf pack, I'm talking about actual wolves here, okay? You have two alphas, an alpha male and an alpha female, all right? So the alpha male always has a female equivalent. Then you get the betas of the two sexes. Then you get, I believe it's the gammas, and then further down the hierarchy, wolves are a hierarchical species, just naturally speaking, because they require, in order to maintain the pack, they require an alpha, a leader, or two, technically. Like I say, alpha male, alpha female. No, by the way, it is not true that the alphas, plural, take the majority of the food, because if that were the case, the rest of the pack would starve. So that whole thing about, like, I'm first in line, so I get the dog's share, that's where we get that saying. That's not actually true, because that wouldn't work in terms of actual sustainability. The whole point of the alpha is to keep the alphas, is to keep the pack together and to keep them safe and actually to keep them all fed. So that's how it works in real life. In Twilight World, however, you get one alpha, always male, because up until Leah's transformation, it was believed that only males could take on the wolf transformation. We're going to talk about her because her case is very interesting. But in the case of the alpha, you have Sam lording it over the rest of them, even though Jacob is the one who is more entitled to the claim of alpha due to the purity of his blood, I suppose, coming down from the original Transformers. Robots in disguise. No, wrong. But the people who could originally take on the transformation, he's in a much more direct line of descent from them. So he has the stronger claim to the alpha headship, which in this book he claims in order to keep Bella safe. When Bella is impregnated, they, the pack, do not know what the child could be and how safe it would be to have the child brought into the world. So while it is the primary mandate of the wolf pack to protect humans, it is also, in Sam's eyes, their duty to eliminate this new threat. Unfortunately, and Jacob articulates this very well, doing so would also kill Bella. And he does not want that done, obviously, because Bella is his friend slash codependent love interest, kind of still. It's creepy. But we're gonna touch on why Jacob is not actually in love with Bella later on down in this video, and oh my gosh. Anyway, so Jacob says to Sam, we're doing an immoral thing, and Sam says to him, no, as far as our duties are concerned, Bella, her life for us now is null and void because she chose this. She chose to side with the vampires. And technically that's true, but also very, very gray area stuff here. Like, Sam is still doing an immoral thing. Another aspect of this is Renesmee herself. It's like, okay, you don't know what the child is going to be, but she is at least half human, so you might want to wait and find out, because that part of her would actually make her safer. And you already understand the vampiric nature because you're surrounded by vampires, which is how the pack started in this generation to begin with. Because whenever there are vampires around, there are wolves, like, I'm sorry, there are quiliates with the active wolf gene who take on the transformation in order to protect their territory. So Jacob flatly disagrees with Sam, and at last he claims his alpha rights, right? And when Jacob splinters off from the rest of them, he can no longer hear the pack mind. Basically what happens is that when they all take to their wolf forms, they are capable of hearing one another's thoughts. So basically he's Edward when he's in wolf form. He can read everyone else's thoughts, but only within the pack. When he takes on his alpha role, though, ostensibly he has become his own pack, the lone wolf, shall we say. And almost immediately thereafter, both Seth and Leah, they are younger members of the pack, and Leah is Seth's older sister. Seth is one of Jacob's best friends. They break off from Sam's pack because they decide that they are with Jacob in the moral sense. So they want to follow him and not follow Sam. Leah, however, well, she does not like Jacob. Okay, the whole thing about the morality, sorry, that was just Seth. Leah follows Seth in order to protect him, but her primary motivation from splitting away from the rest of the pack actually is to get away from Sam. All right, I need to talk about imprinting. Again, what happened with Sam is that initially Sam and Leah were in love, and they were pretty tight. You know, as couples go, they were quite functional, apparently. You don't actually see this in the book because Sam imprints on Leah's sister, Emily. Immediately, his affection for Leah, gone. And he is bound hand and foot to this other girl, Emily. And he has no choice in the matter, is what the narrative says. The meta narrative, though, yet again, and this is where the cringe comes in because this is just going to get worse, is the whole narrative that Indigenous men cannot control their sexual urges. All right. So for as attractive or whatever as he may have found Leah, as emotionally invested as he was in Leah, other girl walks into the picture and it's done. It's done. And Leah hates Sam for this. But another aspect of Leah's character that I have not touched on yet because I was saving it for this video is that because she is capable of taking on the wolf transformation, which up until that point, as I said, was thought to be connected only to the Y chromosome, only to men, she has ceased to be capable of having children. You know, she says to Jacob when they are sharing the pack mind, like they're both in their wolf form at this point, and Jacob wants to block all of this out, by the way, because he's still very young, still very inexperienced, and still very insensitive. She says to Jacob, I'm menopausal, and I am a genetic dead end, is what she calls herself, okay? Jacob tries to reassure her because she doesn't want to be a wolf, really, not really, and he says to her, when you give up your wolf, because they are capable of doing that, by the way, if they don't transform for long enough, they will cease to be able to. When you give up your wolf, I'm sure that things will, as he puts it, start back up again. But she says she doesn't think so, and the reason why she doesn't think so is because she has not imprinted on anyone, nor has anyone imprinted on her. So, meta-narrative-wise, the only way the people in the pack see themselves as being capable of, you know, keeping the lineage going is by imprinting. And that's not good because, as I say, meta-narratively, it all has to do with Indigenous males specifically, not females, and we'll get to that. Um, not being able to control their bodies and, who they want to sleep with. All right. Leah, however, in as she thinks, not being able to imprint on another person. Um, in terms of the meta narrative, basically it's saying that the woman has to be the passive participant in any kind of physical relationship. This is true of conservative Christianity in general. I don't want to say whether Stephanie Meyer herself believes this, but that's what I kind of read into this. Remember that everything that I say here, by the way, is my interpretation of the narrative within the narrative, or the narrative underneath the narrative. Okay, so much like Rosalie, what's her name? Leah sees it as, her primary function or her primary duty as a woman is to have children, okay? To both of these women, I would say, honey, adoption is an option here. Like, really, as I said in my last video, if you want to stay home and have kids and bake cookies and dress up, with your little ones all day, that's fine, okay? It's not the path for every woman. The whole point of feminism is that women are given a choice of whether they want to stay home and perform the traditionally feminine role or go out into the world and perform those roles. Trust me when I say that there are very, very, very active women in the Bible. Read the Bible, okay? I don't recommend it in terms of actual literature. It's too diverse in its literary tropes and its literary methods. You've got genealogy, poetry, allegory, metaphor. They're just kind of all over the place. And it doesn't make for a cohesive narrative in any way, shape, or form, nor is it scientifically accurate or historically accurate. So in terms of being an actual book, it's not that good. But what it has put into our culture, is kind of important to understand why these things are the way they are even now in the 21st century, when all of these books were written, some of them literally millennia ago. So when it comes to Rosalie and Leah, to both of them, I would say, ladies, it's okay. Calm down. You can adopt, I promise. That's a thing that can happen in the real world. It's fine. But the problem is that this is basically like feminism gone wrong. They're both very powerful women, physically speaking. Like Rosalie is a vampire. She's got the vampiric strength. Leah can transform into a freaking wolf, but they don't have the maternal capacity so far as they see it. So they think that it's not even important. The rest of their character is not important. I find Leah actually to be one of the more stand-up moral characters in this book. Like, she actually, in Breaking Dawn, calls Bella out on her BS with playing with Jacob, because Bella wants Jacob around desperately when she is pregnant with Renesmee. I'll get into the reason for that. But Leah sees this as emotional manipulation on Bella's part. Leah does not like Bella. Leah also does not like Jacob. However, Jacob is at this point in the book being a halfway decent friend to her and a halfway decent leader in terms of being her alpha, like her pack of three, the alpha. Two more, by the way, two more of Jacob's friends join that pack later on in the book, but it's kind of glossed over. Embry and Quill. Quill being one of the wolves who imprinted on a 2, now 3-year-old girl. It gets worse, right? But they are Jacob's best friends, so they decide to split off from Sam's pack, and that happens. But, Leah calls Bella out on the whole emotional manipulation thing, and Jacob tells her, you can't do that again. She's too vulnerable right now. And I don't hold it against her. I want to be with her right now too. But Leah says to Jacob, and I like this, "Oh, are you going to order me not to, Mr. Alpha?" Because the problem is with the Alpha, when they give a direct order, the other wolves are literally incapable of disobeying them. So take away their free will. But that's the problem that Jacob has with it too. And he says, "I'm not giving you an order, Leah. I'm just telling you, don't, maybe." Right? So Jacob is actually not that bad with Leah. They're not that bad with one another. It would have been halfway decent to see the two of them get together. But unfortunately the narrative goes south from here. So Jacob helps Edward, skipping forward here, okay? Jacob helps Edward get Renesmee out of Bella because Renesmee is growing at an unprecedented rate, and she ends up breaking Bella's spine because she's half vampire. She can't control her own strength. She's not old enough to understand. Obviously, she's not even born yet, but she is somehow sentient. And, Jacob helps get Renesmee out because the placenta detaches and Renesmee can't breathe. Fun stuff. You want some actual horror out of this series? Go and watch the birthing scene in Breaking Dawn Part 1. It's incredibly graphic. Not fun. So that happens, and then, dun dun dun, we all knew it was coming. Jacob imprints on Renesmee, a newborn baby girl. That, by the way, was the reason why Jacob loved Bella. Jacob did not love Bella. Jacob was attracted by the component of Renesmee that resided in Bella's body. So the ova that would become half of Renesmee's DNA. All right? Which confuses me because the other half of Renesmee's DNA set was inside Edward, and yet Jacob despises Edward. This is so wrong. This is so wrong. Not only is it wrong because, Jacob is confused for the entire series, and, he keeps getting pulled in different directions by different people, and including by his friends, his father, Bella, Charlie, who wants to see Bella together with Jacob because he thinks it's a better coupling than Bella and Edward. I agree tentatively. I do tentatively agree. If that had actually worked out, I would have been fine with it. But the way the narrative goes, it doesn't. So Jacob imprints on Renesmee, and the usual problem I have with that, again, the meta-narrative. I'm sorry. The meta-narrative says Indigenous men cannot control their sexual urges. I'm sorry. Renesmee is a newborn, okay? I have huge problems with the concept of imprinting in general. I have much huger, that's a word, problems with them imprinting on literal children. Quill, Jacob. Ugh. It's not the fault of the character, it's the fault of the author, 100%. As I say, I don't know whether Stephanie Meyer is racist, especially towards Indigenous people, but it really, really, really comes off that way. I don't want to be judgy of someone I don't know, but it really, really, really comes off that way. Tone it down. I also don't know why, I think I've said this before, I don't know why in the 21st century a work like this was greenlit. Get that pop up off my screen. So sorry, people. Ba-ba-ba. Go away. Thank you. I don't know why in the 21st century this thing was greenlit. It is bad. Yesterday, like I said, at least with Lolita, Vladimir Nabokov had the decency to portray this as a bad thing. Okay? You understand from the narrative in that book that what is going on is a bad thing. In these books, though, for some weird reason, it's portrayed as not only a good thing, but actually very romantic. Ew. Okay, theoretically, the whole idea is supposed to be that at any given stage of life, the imprinter is to the imprintee whatever she requires him to be. Working, by the way, under the assumption that it's only male wolves who can imprint, okay? Because that's basically what the narrative says. So at any given phase in Renesmee's life, Jacob will be what she requires him to be at that phase. A brother, a friend, even a father figure at times, a lover later on. And it also says earlier on, I think this may even be an eclipse, that for the imprintee, so for the girl in question, why would she refuse this person's advances? You know, it's difficult. I think the actual words are, it's difficult to resist that level of commitment. Not for a girl with integrity. I'm sorry. Not for a girl with integrity or self-esteem. I personally, I'm just speaking for myself, I don't want the kind of man who gives me everything. I don't. It's not that I want to be fighting with the person in question all the time, but I also don't want someone who has so little of a spine that he just bends over and gives me whatever I want, okay? I don't want a slave. I want a man. And really, I don't understand why Stephenie Meyer would portray this as a good thing. This is a very, very bad thing. And it's a horrible lesson to be teaching to the younger teenage girl audience who's going to read these books, especially when it comes to racialized young girls. And by racialized, I mean non-white. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't use the word racialized. You know, because the whole idea is that women are the receivers of the imprinting, and they are passive players in the imprinting. The male is equally passive in that he does not / cannot control who it happens with, but once it's done, basically the girl is expected to take whatever this guy gives her in terms of gifts, in terms of care, in terms of affection, in terms of just, you know, like, he is her property, which disgusts me to say. But the actual words in both the book and the movie are that gravity no longer holds you to the earth. She holds you to the earth. She becomes your center of gravity. And basically, you have no choice but to follow her around and to give her whatever she wants. That is codependency at its finest / worst. It also implies a incredible lack of respect for both parties involved and an incredible lack of self-esteem on the part of both parties. Especially the male, though, because it's like, I'm gonna give you whatever you want and then you'll have to love me. I don't like this. I don't. Like, in terms of actual romance, as I say, this is portrayed in a romantic way, which is disgusting. In terms of actual romance, A, I would like options, please, and B, I don't want the man in question to be my slave. I want an equal, you know, or even, hey, I want someone who is better than me so that I can strive to be a better person. And hopefully I get that at some point. If I don't, fine, whatever. But, you know, that should be, at least in the way I see it, that should be the ideal of a relationship, to have someone to whom you feel equal. And that's basically the biggest problem I have with the narrative. The meta-narrative, it just screws Jacob over so badly. And it also screws Renesmee over so badly. Because, as I said last time, Renesmee is not a character. Renesmee is a plot device. The whole way things work out is because Renesmee is Renesmee. Up to this point, at least in the book, not in the movies, but Bella, when she was still capable of sleep, okay, so when she was still human, she had been having dreams about her baby boy. She always assumed it was going to be a boy. But the dreams that she was having were about, like, beautiful baby boy sitting on top a pile of flaming corpses. And her only desire in the dream was to protect the boy. All right? So basically what this comes down to is that if Renesmee had been a boy, none of this would have worked out, because the Volturi would have come and would have destroyed everyone without the help of the wolves being involved. All right? It was because the wolves were there that the Volturi stopped. They had to stop and consider their odds of survival. In the movie, Aro gets the vision from Alice that if they were to engage in a fight, Aro himself would lose his life. As I have said about that particular scene in the movie, which is not in the book, Aro is self-centered and centered on maintaining only his own power. He doesn't care about the rest of the people around him. It's just about maintaining his own power. But if Renesmee had been Edward Jacob, as Edward and Bella would have called the boy, that wouldn't have happened because Jacob would not have imprinted, which means that everyone would have died. And, oh my gosh, the problem I have with that is that it uses Renesmee to such a way that this whole non-romance is, oh my god, I can't even call it a romance in quotation marks, that it puts a nice, neat little bow on everything, and everything wraps up perfectly with the happy ending for everybody. And they don't have to fight the Volturi, they don't have to defend themselves, they don't have to worry about the wolves anymore, because literally they say the object of a wolf's imprinting is completely off limits. It's their most absolute law that they are not allowed to attack or kill the object of a wolf's imprinting. So the war between the vamps and the wolves is done. Has to be. Because they're not allowed to harm Renesmee. So I just don't like how neat and perfect Stephenie Meyer makes this look, when in reality she is presenting an absolutely atrocious meta-narrative in terms of the racism, but in terms of just the actual narrative itself, it's also atrocious because she takes away Jacob's choice completely and gives Renesmee no choice in her life, because, as I said, the implication and the expectation is that the girl should not be averse to having the imprinter, the boy, drool over her for as long as they are both alive. Oh, God. So, yeah. That's Jacob in Breaking Dawn. That's Renesmee in Breaking Dawn. I don't like how these stories go. I don't like how this ends with this everything wrapped up nicely in the most creepy possible way. Just, oh my god, it's bad. It's wrong. And if you're looking for legitimate romance, do not read these books, please, especially if you are a younger girl watching these videos right now. Take it a step up and read The Hunger Games. It still has a love triangle in it. I don't like love triangles as an author. I don't use them in my work. I think they're lazy. But, like I say, at least it's a step in the right direction. Those books are kind of old now, too. But, yeah. That's Jacob. And all the problems I have with how the narrative screws him over. I'm done. I'm free. I'm free. I'm done and I'm free. I'm so happy. No more Twilight. Okay, I'm never doing this again, and I'm going to take this series for the colossal flop that it was. And on Monday, because I take weekends off, we are going to begin talking about something I have had waiting in the wings for a few weeks now. We are going to start talking about a document that was produced in Canada called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I need to read it over the weekend, and there are 94 calls to action about how settlers on these lands can better interact with these lands' indigenous peoples. And I'm actually passionate about this. I'm going to have a hell of a lot of fun with this, Gonna have to do quite a lot of research, and I hope that it will be both informative and fun for the rest of you as well. And I hope that you will join me for that series because it's gonna be fun for me. For me. All right, so I will see y'all on Monday. Have a lovely weekend. Hopefully it's more sunny where you are than where I am. Okay. Mwah. Bye! No more Twilight!